Hi, my name is Blake Johnston. I'm the founder and CEO of Outbound View. We've worked with 200 plus organizations to help drive more revenue. And one of the things that we've been doing a lot lately is working with our sales consulting clients to really help drive revenue by implementing Claude and AI infrastructures. And so in this video, I'll walk through the blueprint of how exactly our clients are doing this, what it looks like, what are the key challenges, practical use cases, what you actually have to do to set up Claude, and then some of the expected outcomes from setting up Claude and really getting AI to be a core part of your sales infrastructure so that you can drive more revenue. So when we think about AI specifically, most CEOs and sales leaders know it's a thing. They're using it for chat, they're using it for text, they're using it one-off, their team's using it one-off, but it's not truly a part of driving results and increasing revenue, profitability and impact. And so that's one of the things that once you get the system fully set up and once you're operational on Claude in the infrastructure, it becomes very obvious how you can use the tool and how your team can use it ongoing to drive more results. Most CEOs and sales leaders, when you look at surveys, they just don't know where to start with AI. So it's one thing to ask it questions, and I think most people are familiar with that. It's another thing to have it doing things behind the scenes, giving you visibility into your sales team, finding opportunities, and really helping to drive revenue in a number of different ways. The third is that you need to take action, right? Like this stuff is getting better and better every day. And a year from now, you want to be in a spot where you are using AI to do three core things. And everything kind of comes down to these three core things in the sales organization. It's either drive more leads, find more leads, drive sales calls, and close more deals. And then finally, one of the big benefits that you get kind of immediately is this visibility into what your sales team's doing, visibility into opportunities that maybe were missed, visibility into leads that were never on your list that you could have easily found and your team should be engaging. So I'll go through each of these sections here quickly. The key goal here is to get operational on Claude. We've tested GPT. We've been using that for over a year inside of our sales process consulting. We've done in-depth implementations on Claude. Right now, it is just the best infrastructure. It's the best way to set things up. It makes it easier for non-technical users to be able to get in and create that aha moment. So what happens when you implement Claude at the level that I'm going to talk about here is you start to slowly change how you think about everything that you're doing and where AI can help you. I think a lot of people are lost on what are the quick wins? What do I need to do to build this into our full infrastructure? And then just where do I go? And there is always that aha moment that's like, oh, this is what it is. This is how it can help me. Then eventually this is how it can help our whole organization and our team. And usually when you create that aha moment, we're talking about the sales organization specifically, but obviously this relates to marketing, this relates to operations, this relates to team management. And so we'll dive in. I think one of the things that we get asked a lot are just like, give us some examples, right? Like what exactly are we talking about here? And so we've aggregated hundreds of different skills and prompts that you can use once everything is connected. And really, the only thing kind of holding you back is your imagination and what you can do to actually, use these skills once again to drive more leads, to have more calls, and to drive more revenue with the existing leads that you have. So there's a couple quick ones. By connecting your inbox you can quickly see not only opportunities, who you should be following up with, who you've sent stuff to in the last 6 months, who are prospects that are active but haven't actually responded in the last 2 weeks. You can do all these types of things. You can build lists and target accounts, enhance emails, get mobile data from, just using Claude or connecting Claude to a lot of the data tools that you have so that you can do it all in one place and you're not hopping around. You can automate proposals. You can look at deals. One of the things I mentioned above was visibility. How's our sales team executing on calls? Are we following sales processes? Are we sending agendas? Are we following up? How healthy is our actual pipeline? And then identifying opportunities that are things where your team's just not following up. They should have been following up. And so a lot of this comes down to prompts that you can use, skills that you can use, and we'll get into a lot of those. We've aggregated hundreds of these. And I mean, once again, it really just comes down to your imagination. But, we like to filter them by, are we talking about prospecting? Are we talking about discovery? Are we building proposals, negotiation? Are we listening to reps, post-sale, contracts, all of it? But you can see there's just hundreds and hundreds of different ways that you can use this to build case study, to build ROI, to build messaging, kind of all of the above. But it all starts with getting set up the right way. So we can get into lots of quick wins. We could spend, hours and hours walking through all of these prompts and giving examples. But pretty much across your entire sales cycle, you can use Claude to improve pretty much every single aspect. And so setting up Claude, there's very specific ways to do this. And so you want to set it up the right way so that it understands your organization. You start with your company. What do we do? Who do we target? Who are our customers? How do we work? Do we use Google Drive? Do we use Microsoft? Do we use Slack? What reports do I look at every day? What are our products and services? Where are we trying to go as an organization? All of those types of things. So you have to give Claude context. And I know there's lots of questions of how you set up and when you set up. And it depends on a number of different factors. So is your team going to be rolling it out? Normally when we're setting it up, we are setting it up for the CEO and the sales leader as a starting point. Once again, to create that aha moment, to show you what's possible. That way you can think through kind of how you want to roll it out. So, excuse me, there's the Claude or company specific setup. And then there's the sales specific setup. So think, what is our sales process? Who are we targeting? What's our value prop? Who's in our pipeline? What's our sales structure and who is the team that's involved? Who are the personas that we go after? Who have we won? Who have we lost? Help me grow my ICP. Help me do competitor analysis. Help me understand what's different about my existing customers and the people that I win, and how do I go find more of those people? Well, you have to give Claude all of this context before you start so that it can make intelligent recommendations. And then as you make updates to all of these things, you have to categorize it and put these things in the right folder. Is this a skill? Is this a prompt? Is this something else? So that you can use it ongoing and you're not every single time starting over and it doesn't have context on your organization. So the first part is really around giving company overviews, giving the business overview, giving the sales overview, and then diving in further. The second phase really comes into connecting where you're already working. So you can connect your Salesforce, your HubSpot. You can connect your email so it can search not only your inbox, but also see what your team is sending. You can review call recordings, which is one of the biggest gaps that we see in lots of sales organizations is they're not recording internal calls or external calls. Well, you want to have as much information and keep feeding that information in. You may have sales enablement platforms. You may be putting all this stuff in Google Drive. Every day you're using Word and PowerPoint and Excel. Well, Claude has plugins for all of those. Like, you don't need to know how to do a VLOOKUP anymore, right? Like, you can just literally talk to Claude inside of Excel and tell it what you want to do, and it'll go do that. Same thing in Word, same thing in PowerPoint. So to make this powerful, you have to connect everything that you do. Sometimes there are pre-built integrations, other times there aren't, and you got to build to their API. More and more tools are making this easier, but many times you have to set up kind of these custom integrations. And so once you've given it all the context, once you've connected all the tools, now you have one spot where you can start asking questions, setting up workflows, scheduling tasks, and kind of doing all the things that will help you, once again, find more leads, drive more calls, and close more deals. Like that's what the only reason to do that is typically those three things. So let's look at some of the key outcomes once all of this is set up, right? All of your internal tools are connected to Claude. You've built custom workflows and scheduled tasks so that it's operating on its own and it's doing things that you're already doing, but it's delivering them to you automatically and it's working in the background. One place to query all your data, one place to get visibility for all your data, one place to kind of plan, and a thought partner knowing that it knows everything about your business and help you make decisions. And then fully understanding the power of Claude is difficult, right? And you don't have to be a 10 out of 10 of understanding, but you do need to know, when do I do this? How do I keep giving it context? How do I build tasks? How do I do all these things so that I can get the value, to drive more revenue? And so when we're setting this up, it actually, most companies don't have all of this documented. You can, we typically do it through structured interviews. We have specific forms. We're looking for documentation in a very specific way. We're setting up folders in a very specific way so that you can get to all of these key outcomes. So, we do this for CEOs and sales organizations, right? And we do it because there's just a lot of complexity. And if you don't set it up the right way, you're never going to be able to use AI. When we're setting this up, we're providing dedicated support because questions are going to come up. There's a lot of questions that come up around, do I use Cowork or do I use the regular UI? Or if I introduce it to my team and roll them out, how are we all going to interact together so that we're constantly learning? And this really gets us to a phase one of you've had your aha moment, you're dangerous enough, you're getting a lot of value, and you're set up to be able to drive more revenue. And then there's inevitably a next phase. The next phase is where you typically get into more in-depth automation. So you realize through all of this analysis that your speed to lead isn't fast enough. Well, you want to create an automation where once somebody fills out a form, they automatically get an email and it's prompted here and you do this. Or when your sales team sends a proposal, they get a reminder in 3 days. Or you want it to audit your email and do all the So eventually you're getting to phase 2 and phase 3, really in-depth configurations where it's really working in the background and you're starting to change fundamental processes. Well, we have AI experts on staff. We can build all of this internally. And so companies rely on us to help them build this full infrastructure themselves. So hopefully this blueprint gave you, a little bit of an idea of, hey, here's how to think about it. Here's what I would do to kind of take the next step. Here are some opportunities that are very low-hanging fruit. And where do I go from here? So if you have questions, feel free to reach out. Please set up time, but this will give you more context on, look, Claude, and not just Claude, but AI broadly, needs to be a major part of our organization starting now, 3 months, 6 months, a year down, because you're falling behind if you're not building around AI and using it to, once again, drive more leads, calls, and revenue. So please reach out if you have any questions. I'd love to dive in a little bit further and give you some additional context on how we could implement this type of blueprint inside of your sales organization.